pornography reinforces that sense of rejection in terms of intimacy and sexuality. Because what it does is it says, hey, you can have a peak experience with whoever you want. No one's going to comment on the size or the aesthetics of your genitalia. No one's going to say no to you. The woman's always going to have an orgasm and be pleasured. You're going to have pleasure. You don't have to face rejection. You don't have to be told, no, you're not attractive, or no, I don't want you to buy me a drink, or you don't have to spend all the money and do all this. Porn's free. Do your thing. So now all these centers of the brain are being activated, these dopamine centers, right? And it's really, really easy to just go to pornography. Now what that does, I'm using that as an example, it's not the be all and end all, I'm using that as an example, but what it does is it reinforces the fact that we're not resilient. Because here's the thing, when you go out and you're introduced to people and you take the chance to maybe ask a person out or say, hey, I find you interesting. Would you like to get a coffee, or would you like to go to dinner or whatever? And you don't give that person the opportunity to say no, you miss out the opportunity to build greater self-worth from a healthy place. Of course, it can come from an unhealthy place too, like you can develop spite and resentment and all that, but we don't want to go there. But we miss out that opportunity to be more resilient and increase our self-worth and look at it from a place of, oh, what's the opportunity here for me? How can I grow from this if we just play it really easy? Does that make sense?
Yeah. And the coping mechanisms and behavioral adaptations could be a full spectrum of things. Pornography is, I feel like, a fairly common one because there is an unsettled, I guess, dysregulated nervous system where you need pleasure to reconcile the pain that you're not facing, the pain of self, and being okay in your own presence. And that can have so many different ripple effects and expressions. But how does somebody, for example, that has a porn addiction, or they're in a relationship and they're watching it and they're not telling their partner, maybe there's an interesting dynamic there, how does one move through that?
Yeah, often with difficulty. And it's very much connected to the shame piece as well. And so I often say the greater the pain that we're harboring, whether we know it or not, the greater the pleasure we require to mitigate that pain and distract us from feeling the pain that we don't want to feel. And pornography, food, adrenaline, making a ton of money, being successful, fame, the pursuit of that. Because dopamine's an anticipatory hormone. Even forget about the actualization of the thing, just the pursuit of it is very distracting from the pain that we don't want to feel. But here's the paradox. Feel the pain and you'll move through it, you'll close the loop and you'll be a different person. You create that spaciousness. So we come back to that quote unquote porn addiction or sex addiction is we've got to get to the root of that. And when we dig underneath that, what is often the case, and not to reduce or to simplify quote unquote porn addiction or love compulsion, but often what is at the root of that is intimacy issues, lack of self-worth, so low self-worth, harboring deep shame. And it could be, unresolved experiences. Maybe it's sexual abuse that you've experienced. Maybe it's physical abuse. Maybe it's emotional abuse. Maybe it's this sense of isolation. I can't trust anyone. Intimacy is not safe, but it's safe when I'm by myself. It's safe in this with my computer screen and myself and my own being. But to be seen by someone else, that hasn't been safe in the past. Dad would criticize me, or mum would not accept who I am or demand a lot of me. I am projecting that my partner is going to do the same, so I'll just hide. So we have to take, the first step to healing is really bringing that thing out that we are carrying in silence, not to the world, that can be a little overwhelming, but to at least one other person that can help us carry that load.
Yeah. Yeah, because then it's like, when we think it's all of our own shit and we have to figure it out all on our own, it becomes a daunting task that is usually going to be pushed off to someday in the future, one day when.
We need to know that we're not alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it can get so heavy, and like the path of self-actualization and reaching our full potential and knowing ourselves, like it can get a little over serious sometimes. And when we're carrying that load alone, it's just a heavy task.
Yeah. And then big terms as well, man, like reaching our highest potential. And they're terms that I use as well and I'm an advocate of. And even self-actualization, they're very, very big terms for most people. Not because people are ignorant or stupid, because people are holding so much pain. I think what is probably even more important is just like, what's the next step?
Yeah.
Like, what's the next thing that I can do? Okay, so I watch porn and I masturbate to porn 3 times a day. Can I just cut that back down to 2 times a day and observe what happens? Can I maybe seek a counselor or join, a Sex Anonymous group, or one little step that breaks a habit that helps you see aspects of yourself that you couldn't see before? But the thing is, we need to be willing and wanting. There's this gap that happens. Like, people say, well, how do you do the thing? But you've got to be aware of the thing before you can take a step.
Totally.
And some people are just not aware of their pain. They just think it's part of their lives. They can't see the forest through the trees. Something needs to happen. To me, that something is immense discomfort that is a wake-up call. It's that rock bottom moment that has them say, oh, shit, I'm addicted to pornography. Or shit, I don't like being rejected. Therefore, I keep my mouth shut and don't say the thing that I want to say. So I don't open myself up to being told no or a different opinion or whatever. We need that. I think we need that rock bottom moment. I don't think we're going to be like that for the rest of our existence, but we need it in this state of consciousness.
Totally. You could be a people pleaser and like just be coasting in the slightly uncomfortable comfort zone of that and be in that zone for a while, but until something from life, the universe, smacks you with a cosmic 2x4 to wake you up to realize that you've been living a slightly shittier version of yourself that is possible, then it's just necessary. I feel like oftentimes it just boils down to, like you said, getting awareness of what the root is, which is a task in and of itself, and then fully feeling it. You have to fully feel it to be able to transmute it, right? And would have been off the top like a couple of the most powerful modalities to actually get into that space, to actually feel it. I know you spoke to plant medicines, but are there others?
Yeah, for me, breathwork literally saved my life. Like, I mean, I've been on the verge of suicide many times, and this one particular time I just felt so hopeless. And I knew, though, at the same time, I had a little ways to go in terms of the depth and despair to be able to slingshot out of it. But I was just tired, man. Like, I was exhausted. Not just physically, but I was emotionally, spiritually exhausted. I was just at my tether. And a friend of mine said, hey, there's this amazing practitioner. She does breathwork many years ago. She does breathwork. And she's here visiting from, I think it was Sweden or something, some European country. I can't remember which one. And you got to try it. And I said, yeah, I mean, I'm sort of familiar with breathwork, man. But yeah, okay, I'll do it, whatever. Like, I'll do anything at this point. So I hadn't given up, but I was close. Changed my life, man. It changed my life. I mean, I released stuff from that. I had DMT experience like no other, like a DMT release like no other. Yeah. I went to the beach after that particular session, and have you ever done DMT?
No.
So
not exogenous DMT.
Yeah. So it's like duality collapses, at least for me, right? And so after this breathwork session, I don't know how I got to the beach. It was only a few minute drive, but I don't know how I got there. And I was sitting on the beach, and all of a sudden the ocean was where the sky was and the sky was where the ocean was. At least that's how it looked. So it's a very, very deep, profound experience. But what happened as a result of me allowing myself to just really let go and breathe and be witnessed by this woman and be in her guidance and her nurturing presence, I was able to release such deep, trapped, repressed emotion that just was stuck. And I couldn't access it by myself. And I couldn't access it in other conventional or even slightly unconventional methodologies that I'd utilized as well. Even with the inner child work and the family constellation work, I just couldn't get it. And I needed to breathe in this way and access this through the somatic body. And that's when that was a big turning point for me. And I started to gain just a slither of hope.
Yeah.
And I immersed myself in breath practice.
It's beautiful. You just like gave yourself some space from being the identity that is the person who's suffering to like slightly having some separation and watching the version of you that was going through it. And that's a powerful shift, man.